All right, guys, welcome in. We're going to get right into this. You know who loves all this conservative fighting that we're doing? All this conservative infighting. You know who loves it? The Democrats. The Democrats are sitting back, feet up in the air, eating popcorn, laughing behind our backs because we are destroying ourselves from the inside. Whoever's in charge, I don't know if it's got to be Trump or if it's got to be J.D. Vance, they got to sit everybody down. When I say sit everybody down, I'm talking about Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Officer Tatum. You got to sit everybody down, and whoever's in charge has to look them in the eye and say, guys, what the F are you guys doing? What the heck does any of this stuff have to do with 2026 midterms or the focal point 2028? Pull your heads out of your asses. That's what you have to do. That's what you have to say right now. Right now, you can say whatever you want about the lunatic Democrats. You know, they're trying to defund the police. They're trying to destroy the economy. They want boys to play in women's sports. They want boys to be in women's bathrooms. Yes, that's true. But they all stick together. Right now, we are fighting with each other so much. We're literally splitting the party in half. And it starts with Candace Owens throwing out ridiculous claims about Erika Kirk and Turning Point USA and all these things that, by the way, she has not said one factual or given us one shred of evidence. Not one credible thing that we can say, oh, yeah, maybe she's on to a point. No, not one single shred of evidence. When she was on Piers Morgan show, Piers Morgan said, okay, Candace, give me your evidence. You just said that these two people on Turning Point Insiders have knowledge that something was going to happen to Charlie Kirk. So please give me your information. What knowledge do you have? And she said, oh, well, you know, I don't have really credible information, but these are the things that I believe. And Piers said, so you don't have any credible information? Well, you know, I don't really have any credible information. But I gave the names to Erika Kirk, and I said, these are the two names you should look into. Okay. And then you have Tucker Carlson, who, by the way, can interview whoever he wants to. Nick Fuentes, I've even met videos of stuff that I agreed about when it comes to Black accountability and stuff like that. But when you have such a controversial figure like Nick Fuentes talking about his favorite day is Joseph Stalin's birthday and all these things he says about Hitler, all this crazy stuff, and you don't push back on anything, don't you think that the Democrats are going to use every single bit of that clip on us for 2026 and say, look, he's interviewing an anti-Semite. He's interviewing a white supremacist. He's interviewing someone that loves Hitler, and he didn't say anything. He endorsed all the stuff that he was saying. So this is what the Democrats are going to use against us. So right now we had AmFest, and, you know, during a Turning Point, you say what you want about Erika Kirk, you know, I personally really commend her. You know, she's trying to keep Charlie Kirk's legacy alive. You know, you can't just sit back in the sidelines and grieve how much as you want. Everybody grieves differently. You know, some people think that Erika Kirk should just be sitting in a corner crying every single day and don't say anything and just, you know, let Turning Point, you know, get ran by whatever. No, I think that she's grieving in a way that she says, look, I have to, you know, behind closed doors, when the cameras are off, I'm going to grieve. But I have to continue on Charlie's legacy. I don't want Charlie's legacy to be ruined or be in the hands of somebody else that doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't stand for the values and morals that Charlie Kirk did. So I'm going to take charge of it. And one of the things we saw was Ben Shapiro. You saw Megyn Kelly. You saw Tucker Carlson, who gave a fucking weird speech about, you know, us conservatives hating Muslims. We don't hate Muslims. We hate Islam, and we hate Sharia law, and we hate people that are coming to this country, a Christian-based country, by the way, and trying to destroy it from within. That's what we hate. If you want to assimilate and you're a Muslim, fine. You come over here and you want to bring Sharia law, we don't want you over here. That's what we're talking about. But we're going to get right into this Ben Shapiro speech. And Ben Shapiro was very, very, very critical of Candace Owens and some of the other people that he has an issue with. I liked the speech. I thought it was fiery. But again, none of this is helping our movement for 2026. But let's look at the speech that Ben gave. And he was very honest. He's very opinionated. And let's just see what he has to say about, you know, some of the people on the right that's accusing Erika Kirk and all these other people.
Danger from charlatans who claim to speak in the name of principle, but actually traffic in conspiracism and dishonesty, who offer nothing but bile and despair, who seek to undermine fundamental principles of conservatism by championing enervation and grievance. These people are frauds, and they are grifters, and they do not deserve your time. And they are something worse than that, a danger to the only movement capable of stopping the left from wrecking the country wholesale. So today, I want to discuss 5 obligations that people who speak to you on matters of importance have to you. I want to speak to you about our duties, Our first duty is truth. We owe you the truth. That means we should not mislead you. It means we shouldn't hide the ball. We shouldn't be deliberately obscure about what we're telling you. We have an obligation to clarity and to honesty. This means that we actually have to be clear in the language that we use. We should not traffic in generality. We should not say things like, they shot Charlie, without specifying whom we mean by they. The person who allegedly shot Charlie Kirk, and whom all the evidence points at, all of it, is a gay, trans-loving furry. If we are going to target ideological movements, we should talk about the fact that the radical trans movement treats all those who oppose it as existential threats. Or if we're going to talk about the Democratic Party making room for the radical trans movement and echoing its inflammatory rhetoric, well, we should talk about that. Those are specific problems, and they require specific responses. When people say they shot Charlie, however, they are instead trafficking in vagary that results in increased hatred without proposing any effective response. They are fostering despair and rage, and that makes things worse. We must also be honest about what people say and do, regardless of what that means coalitionally. It is the job of politicians to build coalitions. It's the job of those of us who try to shape public opinion to hold politicians to account and to hold them accountable to our values. We must not let fear of audience deter us from telling the truth. We must not let fear of other hosts deter us from telling the truth. So, for example, if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk casting aspersions at TPUSA and the people who work here, who worked with Charlie every single day, his best friends, to cast aspersions at Mikey McCoy and Andrew Colvin and Blake Neff and Tyler Boyer, and yes, at Erika Kirk, and to imply or outright claim complicity in a cover-up over Charlie's murder, to spew absolutely baseless trash implicating everyone from French intelligence to Mossad to members of TPUSA in Charlie's murder or a cover-up in that murder, then we, as people with a microphone, have a moral obligation to call that out by name. Erika Kirk and TPUSA never should have been put in the position to have to defend themselves against such specious and evil attacks, particularly in a time of mourning. And the people who refuse to condemn Candace's truly vicious attacks, and some of them are speaking here, are guilty of cowardice. Yes, cowardice. The fact that they have said nothing while Candace has been vomiting all sorts of hideous and conspiratorial nonsense into the public square for years is just as cowardly. Second, because we owe you the truth, we owe you the duty to speak out of principle, not personal feeling. It should not matter whether we despise someone or whether we love someone. The question is what they say and what they do, and whether those things are morally decent or not. On a political level, do they foster freedom, justice, and prosperity? On a personal level, do they treat others as they would wish to be treated? Personal feeling is not a substitute for moral judgment. To take again the Candace Owens situation as an example, friendship with public figures who say or do evil things is not an excuse for silence on the matter. Politics is not the sisterhood of the traveling pants.
Okay, so I love that one. Before we get into the next one, I'm going to say this. The reason why I don't support anything that Candace says is because I think that Candace is nothing more than a conservative Whoopi Goldberg, just says the dumbest stuff in order to get views, and it's worked very well. She has got a lot of views, but here's where I started breaking away from Candace Owens. When she started talking about Emmanuel Macron's wife's, ladies' parts, and, he's married to a man and all this stuff. Well, the Macron team said, hey, look, if you're going to keep spewing this nonsense, we're going to eventually sue you. And she just said, I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it till eventually Macron sued them. And you know what she did? She got mad at Donald Trump and J.D. Vance for not coming to her aid. She said that Donald Trump was not defending his constituent and that it's a infringement on her right to speech. First of all, you understand what your First Amendment is, that it's just a protection of you for not getting thrown in jail for your words, but it has no protection of you being sued for defamation of character. And so if you're going to accuse a French president of marrying a man, which whatever it could be true, I have no idea, but how can you dare get mad at Donald Trump for not coming to your defense? That makes no sense. So again, when Ben Shapiro is talking about, you're speaking in generality, you're vague, you're saying they did this, they did that. She has no evidence, but it's storytelling. She's great at storytelling. She's great at getting all these views, but again, hasn't provided any inkling, any evidence at all to anybody in Turning Point being involved or knowing beforehand that Charlie Kirk was going to get killed. So here's the second part of what Ben Shapiro had to say.
Our industry, our close friends, like we all take holiday breaks with each other and go to each other's kids' graduations and stuff. It's generally untrue. Some people do that, most of us don't. We see each other at conferences and we talk on the phone and all the rest. We're business colleagues. But even if it were true that other public figures were our best friends, our very best friends, that does not relieve us of our duty to speak out of principle and not to cover up evil or shy away from addressing it out of friendship. So no, Tucker Carlson, it is not an excuse to go silent on Candace's targeting of TPUSA. Or to mirror her bullshit lines of questioning because you love Candace personally. The same holds true of Megyn Kelly, a person I consider a friend, characterizing Candace as a young mother and thus shying away from condemning her actions or fibbing about them. That is a non-starter. Meghan Markle is a young mother. Ilhan Omar is a young mother. That doesn't matter. And when Megyn said this week, quote, "My goal and my job here is to try to understand, yes, where Candace is coming from on this," and says she sees no purpose in inserting herself, quote, into this on one side, that is a moral and logical absurdity. There is only one moral side here, Erika Kirk's side. You know, the side of the widow with 2 children whose husband was shot live on camera in front of all of us. Friendship with the person accusing TPUSA of a cover-up of Charlie's murder is no excuse for cowardice. Third, and relatedly, we have a duty to take responsibility for what we say and do. If we hire awful people, we're responsible for that. I have some experience there, as you might suspect. That means that if we offer a guest for your viewing, we owe it to you to ask the kinds of questions that actually get at the truth. If we agree with the guest, that's fine, but we should own it. So, for example, if you host a Hitler apologist, Nazi-loving, anti-American piece of refuse like Nick Fuentes, you know, the Nick Fuentes who said that the Vice President of the United States is a, quote, fat gay race traitor married to a Jeet. The person who said that Charlie Kirk was a, quote, retarded idiot. The person who said, and pardon my language here, it's his quote, that he, quote, took Turning Point USA and f***ed it, and that's why it's filled with groypers. If you have that person on your show and you proceed to glaze him, you ought to own it.
Actually, I agree with everything that Ben said. He said all these things before he sat down with Nick Fuentes. And Tucker Carlson, I don't know if you guys saw this interview, did not push back on one single thing Nick Fuentes has said at all. He made Nick Fuentes seem like a regular average guy, just walking his dog, just getting a donut every single day. He made him seem like such a nice guy. And he literally said his favorite day is Joseph Stalin's birthday. He made Hitler seem cool. He said all these things, and Tucker Carlson didn't. I think that's going to actually come back to haunt him because, again, you can interview whoever you want. You can interview Klansmen, you can interview white supremacists. It does not matter, but you got to push back a little bit. I mean, even when Donald Trump goes on Fox News or when he goes on CNN, he gets, hey, you know what? You said this, Donald Trump. What do you mean by that? And you're saying the economy is A++. Is it really? They push back a little bit. But Tucker Carlson just, hey, Nick, what's going on? Good to see you. So that's kind of what Ben's talking about. There is a reason that Charlie Kirk despised Nick Fuentes,
and indeed even chided Dinesh D'Souza for debating him. He knew that Nick Fuentes is an evil troll and that building him up is an act of moral imbecility. And that is precisely what Tucker Carlson did. He built Nick Fuentes up. And he ought to take responsibility for that, just as he ought to take responsibility for glazing pornographer and alleged sex trafficker Andrew Tate, or for mainstreaming fake historian and pseudo-Nazi apologist Daryl Cooper as America's best and most honest popular historian. Hosts are indeed responsible for the guests they choose and the questions they ask those guests. Fourth, because we have a duty to truth, we also have a duty to provide you with evidence of the claims that we make. Emotive accusations, conspiracy theories, and just guessing questions, that's lazy and stupid and misleading. None of them are a substitute for truth. None of them are a substitute for evidence. So, when Candace Owens says, "I don't know, but I know," that is retarded, and we are all more retarded for having heard it. When Steve Bannon, for example, accuses his foreign policy opponents of loyalty to a foreign country, he's not actually making an argument based in evidence. He's simply maligning people that he disagrees with, which is indeed par for the course from a man who was once a PR flack for Jeffrey Epstein. Check the record. Our duty to provide you evidence means we actually have to do much more than just ask questions. Just asking questions is something my 5-year-old does, and it's really cute when it comes from my 5-year-old. But when grown men and women spend their days just asking questions without, seeking answers, they are lying to you. In fact,
so I kind of wrapping up everything that Ben's saying is that, if you're going to level accusations, again, Candace Owens, she has not provided anything, no details, no evidence, just a lot of questions. And then she gets mad at Turning Point Insiders for not answering those questions in a timely fashion. And because they're not answering those questions in a timely fashion, they're now complicit and accused of knowing beforehand that Charlie Kirk was going to get killed. So I don't want to be disingenuous. I'm going to play the clip of Candace Owens kind of responding back to Ben after she saw this clip at AmFest. So let's see what she has to say.
Years. You fire someone and you effectively stalk and harass them for years after. I'm here to let you know that I'm done with it. I am done with it. This one is so fully off of the mother effing plantation. Truly, Ben Shapiro, fuck you and the midget horse that you rode in on. And I say that on behalf of the world. I know you're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself as a Talmudic Jew. And I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud so that you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay? If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hates, they think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right.
And this is kind of the interesting thing about what Candace Owens said, and this is why I don't buy into anything of what she says. The Arabs are literally enslaving black people right now in Africa. The Arabs are. She doesn't call them out. But yet she accuses Israel of wanting to enslave black people. Yet in Palestine, I believe it's called like Al-Shabib or Al-whatever. It's literally referenced to called the slave, where a lot of the black Arabs live, where they have to live in that area. So again, there's a city called the slave in Palestine. Arabs are enslaving black people in Africa today as we speak. And yet somehow Israel wants to enslave black people and he doesn't like it. So this is just another crazy accusation thrown out by Candace Owens. But again, none of this stuff is helping us right now. Somebody in the Republican Party has to say, guys, sit the F down. We're going to sit in this room and we're going to talk it out, because right now, if we're on the verge right now of getting our butts whooped in 2026, we are going to get annihilated, and the Democrats are laughing. And guess what? Imagine if, first of all the agenda that Donald Trump has been successfully pushing, closing the border and, ICE and all this other stuff. What do you think is going to happen when 2026 comes? Or what do you think is going to happen when 2028 comes and we're not on the same page? Well, guess what? All that stuff, ICE is going to go away. The borders are going to be reopened again. So our talking heads, our leaders of the conservative party, you know, Tucker, Candace, Ben, Megan, Officer Tatum, all these people that have millions of followers and are, you know, getting the word out there, we have to be aligned on the same page, just like the Democrats, because the Democrats, even though they're lunatics, they are all on the same page when it comes to messaging. You know, we don't like women. We want men to be women. We want men to be in women's sports. We want transgenders to be in schools, and they teach kids about gender fluidity and about they can be whatever they want. They want this nonsense in schools. And if the conservatives don't pull their heads out of their butt, this is going to kick over, and it's going to be in schools, and it's going to continue to be in schools. But we're too busy fighting amongst ourselves, blaming Erika Kirk, interviewing Nick Fuentes, talking about the French president's wife, maybe a man or whatever. It's stuff that doesn't make any sense. So, you know, we have to get our butts together and figure out what's going to happen, because, you know, we have to figure out 2026, and we have to get behind JD and 2028, or we're going to get crushed. And if Gavin Newsom or somebody else or AOC becomes elected because the conservatives are divided, this country is going to go to hell. I guarantee it. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Remember, like, comment, subscribe.